Thank you.
All right, we are rolling.
Turn this off.
So, as you know, I'm writing an article for Road Racing World, kind of just like the history of the class and kind of how it's evolved over the years, and specifically how the weight rule has evolved over the years. And so by now, if you're watching this, that article out is on Road Racing World. Where do we begin? So I guess this is kind of
I mean, you probably begin where you start with it when they began. You know, I mean, they started it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. So just
one show, or
let's just introduce ourselves real quick first. So I'm Andy DeBrino. I've been racing Super Hooligans since the series was started in 2017. I won the 2017, 2018 championships in the class on a Harley Davidson, and then I've just been doing it ever since. And then Eric here has been, doing my bikes since 2011 pretty much for road racing.
And that long, jeez.
Even some of my flat track bikes.
I'm just the janitor. Team janitor.
Yeah.
Because what was the first bike? Was the Harley.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to bring all the lead weight. Maybe I'll go grab that.
Oh, that's all right. Because I would start with like what bike you started with, how the class, why did you pick that bike, or how did you get that bike? Because it was through tour or whatever, right?
In 2017, I had plans to do a full season of MotoAmerica Superstock 600. We did the series in 2015, 2016. So we got the new gen R6. We were gonna run the full series of MotoAmerica in 2017, but then Super Hooligans announced their national championship. I was racing a Harley Street Rod 750 for a local guy, Tor Drake, who runs the One Motorcycle Show.
CC, yep.
Yeah, he had a bike he had built. He says, "Hey, Andy, race this thing." So we do the first round. Got third, I think. And at that point, a bunch of people were telling me, "Hey, you got to do the championship because there's a bunch of prize money on the line." There was a factory Indian
FTR, right? Yeah, that was the
FTR
first
750.
FTR, yeah.
That was the championship prize.
That was fucking rad. That's probably the best bonus, whatever trophy or whatever you could get. That was pretty cool.
You win the
By the way, Roland, bring it back.
Yeah, if you win the bike, you win the bike for winning the championship. So long story short, I decided to change my plans, not do the whole MotoAmerica series, and focus on the hooligan thing, and ended up paying off. I won the title by 1 point, and
that bike was cool.
Won that
expensive
bike. Yeah. The next year, though, they downgraded. They did the FTR.
And then you sold the bike because that helped pay for the next year's program.
Well, no, I sold that bike because AFT wouldn't give me a license to race it.
That's right.
Yeah, so I sold it to a kid named Davis Fisher, who
that could,
he did, and he won some races on it in AFT. But I was doing the Super Hooligan Flat Track series when it was a flat track deal. That kind of went through 2019, and then at the end of 2019, they made a new rules change for weight based off my KTM 790 I was racing at the time.
Indian at the time was sponsoring, didn't like that a non-Indian was doing well.
Well, Indian was,
in my opinion,
Indian was never doing well when it was flat track.
And that's why the first year they gave away a free Indian to a non-Indian rider, they weren't too happy.
Yeah.
And then I think we just kind of put...
I won the first 2 years and won 2 Indians 2 years in a row.
That's when they cut it off.
And
Sorry, next people.
Yeah. Well, no, they did give away a bike in 2019 to Joe Kopp. I don't know what they gave away.
I don't know either, yeah.
I think it was an FTR 1200 as well. But yeah, long story short, there was no weight rule. They decided to make a weight rule because my KTM 790 I brought out was a lot lighter than everything else.
And what was it, 420 the first time?
They made a 400-pound weight rule.
400, that's right, yeah.
So then the off season I had to add 65 pounds of lead. And then they also made a rule that pros, if you held a pro license within the last year in flat track, you couldn't earn championship points, and you couldn't, they'd only pay you purse money for up to 3 events. So 2020, I was essentially, I couldn't contend the series. I got screwed out of that, but I ended up doing the first round anyway, and I still won with all the lead weight on the bike. It actually made my KTM better at the time. But then obviously COVID happened. They canceled that whole series, so it didn't even matter. But fast forward to 2021, there was some rumblings that there may or may not be a series, right? Because COVID was still kind of going on. But I seen, Roland Sands and Frankie Garcia and some of their team guys, they were testing their FTR 1200s out at Chuckwalla in road race trim. So they basically took their they're fairly stock flat track bikes that had flat track wheels and tires on them, and they put the stock wheels back on and they found out that the FTRs worked pretty good on the road race track. So I looked it up today. June 8th, they announced a series. They give a month's notice that, hey, we're doing a national championship. The first round's Laguna Seca. It's a road race. And then they're going to have 3 more rounds after that were flat track races.
Yeah, less than 30 days notice.
They're calling it the Quattro. So it's 4 rounds, 4 different types of races. You had a road race. You had a TT. You had a half-mile flat track race, and you had a short track flat track race. So really cool concept. But so yeah, we did the first ever road race at Laguna. Me and Fillmore brought out some brand new 890 Duke Rs. We got ours literally like a month from the race.
I don't even think, barely.
KTM sent us a bike and some basic parts.
Luckily, a lot of the stuff from the 790 worked on the 890, but it's still.
I mean, it was a simple bike. It was literally just
easy.
It was a KTM 890 with a tune that they supplied.
Yeah.
It was rear sets.
We did a rapid power commander thing on
not
that
that first race.
You're right.
It was literally just exhaust, rear sets.
Yeah.
A tune, and I had to put a belly pan on it.
Is this your
suspension? Oh yeah. Here's some.
I don't know if you're gonna pick that up. Does it go down that low?
These are just some of the lead weights we've ran over the years.
I don't know if my table's gonna hold all these.
I don't know.
Jesus, dude.
It's like good for.
Oh my God.
Display. I mean, there's more. There's some more in here.
Yeah. So we had less than a month, and you had the first round of the Quattro.
Yeah, we did that, and at the time there wasn't a lot of top level guys in the class.
No, you were probably the top level.
Well, me and Fillmore. I mean, you had Corey West, but he wasn't riding like a very good bike at the time. And,
no comment.
Anyway, like we smoked them. Like the KTM smoked everybody, but they didn't really have much development of their bikes. So the next year they make the weight rule 420 pounds, and then that's where that really bogged down the KTM. But like 2022 was kind of an interesting year because obviously Daytona, I ended up winning that. It was me versus Corey West, and our bikes were pretty damn stock. Like the only change we'd made to my KTM at the time was we did do a power commander.
Yeah, tuned it a little bit, yeah.
But I mean, I think the bikes are pretty comparable back then. Obviously,
they were like we were probably maybe 118 horse, maybe.
It was like 119.62.
Yeah, like I said, it was.
I remember because my number is 62, and I remember it was 119.62.
Yeah, and I've probably downloaded 3 million bikes since then. So, but yeah, it was like high teens, but they were all pretty comparable back then.
Yeah, well, obviously the Indian probably made more power. Obviously had way more torque, but it was a lot heavier than the KTM.
Yeah.
But the KTM had to run all the weight, so it didn't really matter. But,
we didn't have the CC advantage.
But even the bikes were fairly simple, so I think back then things were pretty competitive. But then we go to Atlanta.
Because Roland was running it out of his shop, and it wasn't a big, full factory effort yet.
Not quite yet. Yeah. I think after Daytona, because like Corey West was on his own team, and then he had McWilliams and O'Hara that were running under
Roland.
RSD. I think between those rounds, Indian kind of like lit the fire underneath those guys to try to develop the bikes. And then we saw that over the next few races, they got faster and faster. And then by Laguna, I think everybody, at least on the RSD team, I mean, they had aftermarket swing arms, aftermarket subframes, custom fuel cells. They were like running
all the brakes, everything.
Yeah, like things had escalated pretty fast, right?
Budget-wise, it was more than we had.
Yeah, so, and then, we move into 2023, and it's just been a crazy...
So 23 was the Daytona, where they let us take weight off, or was that 22?
No, that was 23. After race one, they did.
After race one, they let
us take.
And the race was
off.
Closer for everybody. Not the same, but
no, it wasn't closer.
I don't remember all the years.
I don't know. All the years kind of blend together, but we don't have to go like full in on the details. But
the long story short is their program kept getting bigger and bigger, and then when Harley came in. The last year with Harley and Indian, the money was crazy.
Two factory teams.
4 semi-trucks.
Yeah.
Probably 50 crew people amongst the 2 teams.
We were, that year in 2023, you had the Pan America came into the class, right? And
which it shouldn't have been allowed. According to the rules, it's not legal.
I mean, that's the one thing I will say is they always talk about the Harley, but they never talk about the fact that it makes more power than the
rules allow.
The rules state it used to be 125 horsepower. They bumped it up to 128.
Claim from the manufacturer.
From the manufacturer, but yeah, they talk about the Harley I mean, it's a Harley marketing show out there right now, but they never talk about the fact that, hey, this bike makes 25 more horsepower claimed
I don't
than
even know
the
if
legal
fans,
amount.
I don't think fans fully understand. I don't think they make a ton more horsepower. Honestly, I think they probably make less than 10% more power, but they make probably 50% more torque. And that's where they get us. Like if you watched the Ridge last weekend, I mean, that video I posted where they're literally 5 bike lengths ahead of you by the time you're not even third gear. And it's just the torque. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, you're a great starter, they're great starters, but then you give them all that torque, they just get off there. And then the torque, what people don't understand, like fans don't understand, is if you come up on them real hard in a corner, they just have to park it, and then they just use the torque to get out of the corner, and then you got to work hard. So it is a big disparity with the CCs.
That was what I struggle with. Obviously, the Ridge this last weekend, I got pole position in a new lap record. But yeah, the way I do my lap time, it's carrying that roll speed where, like, as soon as that first race started and I got past, it completely disrupted how I rode. And it was tough. I was trying to overcome that. And certainly there's areas on the track we'd kind of yo-yo where, like, they'll pull away and then I'll close it back up. But, like, yeah, I never really had any good opportunities to try to make a pass. You know, I would have been curious if, you know, race 2, we had a clutch issue and had to retire early, but I was going to force the issue, and I think I was going to have to get really creative to do something, just because, again, the way that their bikes make power versus mine, it's a clash. It's hard to ride around those Harleys.
I think in the race it showed. I mean, you were a half a second off a lap faster, at least in qualifying by yourself without a draft or anything else, being able to run your lines, everything. But in the race, you couldn't run your lines because I'm not saying they were blocking, but that's just their way the bikes are. You couldn't run your line, so you actually ran a lot slower. And in fact, that one qualifying lap before a rider put their hand up mid-corner, you were 4/10 up even further.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, if we could have had an equal start or you could have gotten the front, in my opinion, I don't think they would have been able to catch you. But Jake and them rode smart, and they knew that, and they knew they had to get out front quick and run their pace.
I'm curious, like, I think, you know, so again, if you're watching this, you've probably read the article, and I explained kind of a year-by-year breakdown, like how the series evolved, how the weight rule has evolved. So you'll know that the Ridge, the Harleys had to add weight. They had a new minimum weight rule of 450 pounds, whereas the bikes under 1,000 cc's, we get to run at a minimum weight of 365. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah,
they're trying, but it's not enough. In my opinion, the weight is not a big issue. When you have 100 plus foot-pounds of torque, the weight, they're going to feel it, but it's not going to make a big difference.
I mean, for years, because, you know, we've always been racing a smaller displacement bike than the Indian FTR 1200 or now the Pan America, which is a 1250. They've always told us, well, yeah, our bikes make more power, but you have the weight advantage. You have the weight advantage. Your bikes they're more nimble. They handle better. And that's honestly all bullshit, because these factory teams, they've spent so much money developing their bikes, lightening their bikes.
Cost more than,
making their bikes handle good. Like, they have power, and now they have handling and braking power to go with it. So then what advantage do we have anymore? We have no advantage.
Well, and the lightweight doesn't matter, because the lightweight, it matters in qualifying. Because when you have a lightweight, good handling bike that makes good, solid power like the Triumph, and you're on your own, and you can run your lines, people saw what happened. You set the track record, and you were, like I said, even further before that rider put their hand up. But the problem is, when you have a heavier, bigger, slower bike in the corners, perhaps, like the Pan America, you can't run your line, so then there's no advantage, because as soon as you get on the gas, they have all the torque to get away. So the advantage of the lighter weight bike is bullshit. It doesn't fucking matter. I mean, they either need to have it. Anyways, well, when you're ready to talk about what we should do.
Yeah. The one thing that's a little different too, like 2023 when we're racing the KTM, it was really just us versus Indian. I mean, Corey West was in there at times. He was there, definitely up there.
He was running a smaller program too, yeah.
Well, I mean, it was still a full semi-truck deal, but I don't think they had the full-on support that they do now from Harley.
Sure.
And it's the first year with that bike, but like, it was really us versus the Indians. Mm-hmm. So when I was out there battling in the Ridge in 2023, I got pole position, but it was a lot different dynamic. It was me versus 2 bikes instead of now it was me versus 6 factory Harleys. There's 6 of them out there. So like, while I'm trying to, go inside, go outside of those guys ahead of me, I got like 3 or 4 more of them behind me just chomping at the bit. So like that was a difficult part in race 2 before the clutch went out, was like guys were more aggressive. I was being more aggressive too, but like again, it's just very difficult for a 765.
Yeah, they have teammates to work with each other and to help. You don't really have that. I mean, you know, you don't have. I mean, like even at Daytona, the Yamahas, if they were in the draft, it was fine. But if they lost the draft, they were like us, dead in the water. You had to stay in that pack of Harleys.
Yeah. For me personally, like I don't think the Ridge is a good test of this weight rule. I feel like regardless of the weight rule, we were gonna be more competitive there anyway than we've been at the other tracks. But
and we keep developing the bike and getting it a little better, and you keep getting more seat time.
That's the thing too. I mean, I remember having a meeting, you know, at Daytona 2023 with me and like a bunch of hooligan riders. For whatever reason, a lot of the pretty much if you're not on a Harley and you're in the MotoAmerica paddock, a lot of those guys look to me as kind of like the voice to like speak up for all these people.
Well, they're. I mean, if it wasn't for, I mean, take out the factory guys. If it wasn't through P5 through 40, that class wouldn't exist, because they're the guys that are coming out supporting the series and trying. And it's like, I feel bad for the guys that are maybe quick, but they don't have the budget or the bike, and like they don't even have a chance to get in the, you know, the top 10 even, you know, because the bikes are so out-qualified.
I mean, it doesn't matter what class, there's always going to be a financial aspect of that, and we understand that, and there's always going to be the aspect of like, hey, you're competing against factory teams.
But if you look at Superbike, the power and weight amongst all the brands are pretty fucking close.
Well, yeah.
Super Sport, all the bikes are pretty fucking close.
A little bit different. But,
Twins Cup,
but you'll always have some sort of separation between with the money factor. But but going back to Daytona 2023 and like people kind of looking to me about the weight thing, you know, I brought it up to MotoAmerica. We had a meeting for that next day, and Teague was there. But I just remember Gary Gray from Indian basically, you know, just talking about how like, yeah, well, we have all this budget. We're trying all these different engine packages and exhaust packages, all this testing. Like, how do you really expect, like you're a privateer team, Andy, how do you really expect to compete against us when we're doing all this work? And, you know, I kind of took that offensively, because it's like, yeah, okay, I get it, you're a factory team, but it's not like we're sitting here doing nothing. I mean, we're
you're trying, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like
we're doing.
You're putting in a lot of hours, a lot of money. I mean, we all stay late and work on stuff, and it's like, just because we don't have the budget doesn't mean we're not trying. You know?
And we've been through multiple,
and we're playing by the rules.
You
know, like we can't run the KTM 1290 Super Duke, which technically would be competitive as far as CCs and torque. Obviously, it makes a lot more horsepower. I don't know if it'd handle any better, but I'm just saying, like, even the 1200 RS Triumph, that's more competitive to a 1250 Pan America. We're running a 765. I mean, that's just what the rules are. I mean, it's, I don't know. I just wish they would make it, you know, it has to be a 2 or 3 cylinder with handlebars, and there you go. You know, it's like
this year I've been more like I was shocked that they made a weight rule for the Harley specifically, because that's something I've never brought up. Of course, I have ideas,
but they watch it and they're getting feedback from people.
And I'd love, I would love for them to balance that bike, but I've been more so in the position like, hey, instead of me talking to the series about trying to slow the Harley down, why don't you let us try to make our Triumph faster?
Yeah.
And I think Laguna next weekend is going to be a better showing of where the balancing really is, because you got a track. It's not my home track, and you got a track that it's a lot of drive corners where, like, meaning you have to get good drives.
Torque.
There's like 45 to 90 degree corners. It's not big swooping, you know, corners.
The last
like
corner is
the
a
Ridge.
perfect example. It's a stop, turn,
and then
squirt out, and then you've got a pretty good run.
And then you got the whole climb up to the top of the corkscrew. So I think it'll be interesting to see how we do there, you know, as well as riders like Dominic Doyle, who.
But it would be nice to see if there's a disparity. Like, in my opinion, I think there's going to be, because of that. Especially at Laguna, up the hill and the long corner, or the sharp 90 degree last corner onto the front straight. That's just where you got to have torque to get off the corner. You know? And if you get the gearing, you know, we have a little more RPM to work with the Triumph, which is good, so we can run more gearing. But you can gear it, but it's still torque that's going to really affect it down there. You know.
Why don't you think we don't see, like when Indian was running in the series and now Harley, Like, why don't you think you see more Indians and Harley privateer guys?
Well, I think the Indian is kind of a double-edged sword. I think one, it's an expensive fucking bike. I mean, it was $40,000 for the base,
No.
For the FTR?
Yeah, like 12.5.
Oh, was it? Oh.
12.5, 13
I'm
grand.
thinking of the other one. So, but I still think it's expensive for most people to get into because there's not aftermarket support for it. I mean, if you look at the Harley guys that are independent, I forget his name. Dylan, nice kid. He doesn't have the same support as the factory guys. He just doesn't. And he'll say that, like, he can't get into the ECU and do all the things he wants like I think you can. Whereas the factory guys, I mean, they can pretty much do whatever they want. It's their bike and their ECU. I just think the Indian, one, they discontinued it, I believe, this year, right? Or was it last year? One of the years. But I just think there's not, you can't just go out like a Triumph or a KTM or Suzuki. You can get those. They're easy. I think the Indians is pretty limited, and people don't have the knowledge to work on them, with electronics and stuff,
And then, like, why don't you think there's not more Harleys, though? Like, right now, why is there
Because
not?
I think people realize, like I'm not speaking for Dylan, but I'm saying, like, if I was Dylan, I'd be like, why would I run this bike when I get zero support? If I need to change the ECU, I have to go through Harley. And I'm not saying Harley's not giving him exactly the same, but I have a hard time believing that Indian gives him the same stuff that Corey West gets. That's just my opinion.
Or Harley.
Or Harley.
Harley, yeah.
Or, Jake or whatever, the top guys.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't know, and that's the problem when you're locked out. Like, a privateer can't go down to a local Harley dealer, build that bike, and have it the same without going through Harley race team.
Yeah,
and it limits them.
I remember I've been asked by multiple people, like, why don't you just race a Harley? And number one, I don't want to race a Harley. Like, I would have been interested. Like, if one of those two-factor teams came up to me and said, "Hey, Andy, we got a ride for you," I for sure,
of course,
would have been willing to try the bike and maybe do it. But as a privateer, it makes no sense because, number one, the cost. All right, the cost of the bikes. It's not so much just buying the bike itself, right? It's the fact that you have to manufacture all your own custom parts. There's not bolt-on rear sets. There's not,
which is easy when you have a race team like that.
There's not a bolt-on race subframe. None of this stuff is available just anywhere. I can't get it through a shop that supports me. I would have to buy that stuff if the team themselves is willing to sell it.
If they're willing to sell it,
or I got to hire somebody to develop and manufacture all those parts custom for me, which that's expensive. So the cost of building a Harley is going to be 2 or 3 times more than a Triumph.
Oh, I think it's 5 to 10 times.
And the same thing when when Indian was in the series, you didn't really see a whole lot of privateer Indians because it was just way easier to go to get a KTM because the bike's pretty much set up and made for what you're doing. Whereas the Indian, you had to raise the thing up so it wouldn't drag the engine cases. You had to do all this stuff to get to handle. Like,
I think also some of the other riders, in my opinion, have dropped out of the series because they look at it and they're like, all I can get is maybe a top 10, maybe. I can't compete with factory teams, and it didn't used to be like that. It used to be, like, more equal bikes and more equal availability. So now you've literally got one-off Pan Americas like that are. I think it's awesome. I love looking at look at the Arch bike. Who the F can do that? I mean, I hope those guys get it together because it's a fucking rad bike and it's a cool program. But you can't buy that bike. You can't even if you had Keanu Reeves' money and you went to Keanu Reeves and said, "Can I buy one of those for Hooligans?" They'd be like, "No, we don't have one." So it's become almost a prototype. Like, it's just unobtainable for the rest of the people. And my fear is Roland, not directly, but the class is going to push people from you down out of the class because it's like, well, if you don't have a Pan America, you can't compete, and then it's just a Pan America Cup.
I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, I've been wanting to film something like this for a while because I've been in Super Hooligans since it started. I'm pretty much the only racer in the field. One of the only racers in the field. No, I think I am the only one right now that's done it since it was a flat track series in 2017.
Yeah.
I think the only person maybe that's done it would be Frankie Garcia, but he's not a current Super Hooligan rider.
No.
But I've been in this thing forever through everything. So I'm very passionate.
Want to support it.
I'm very passionate about it. I've enjoyed it. It's given me a career. So I mean, I like Roland. Obviously, I love MotoAmerica.
Roland's great.
I want to see it do well, but I'm right now, honestly, I don't know if this is something that makes a lot of sense to keep doing. I love it, I enjoy it, but I don't want to have to build a Harley to be competitive for a championship.
Well,
I mean, so far we're the only non-Harley to get on the podium this year, just one time. Yeah. And we have really good guys in this class. I mean, Dominic Doyle, I rate him really highly as a rider.
Absolutely.
And there's other great guys on those Harleys too, of course, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, almost all of those guys I've beat in other classes before. So
but
I know where I stack up against those guys, and I don't think I think we had a good showing this last weekend, but obviously I think that the class, there's disparity, obviously, behind the Harleys versus the rest of the field.
For me, the biggest issue is when Indian got out, there went their biggest threat, basically, as far as protest or checking them, holding them accountable. Because, I mean, Jesus Christ, how many times did we see them protest each other on stupid shit? But it's cool because it kept them in check. And then this year, one, they're the title sponsor, so we know how that goes. MotoAmerica doesn't want to offend anybody that pays the bills. But it's like, there's no one keeping check, so it's like now they're allowed to run the airbox and velocity stack that Indian protested them and they weren't allowed to run, so that makes their bike a lot faster. And then now they've got a Ram Air, which the tech inspector, I don't care what he says, oh, it's not Ram Air because it has a gap, it doesn't fully connect. That's bullshit. Let's take it off and watch what the trap speeds are, but the bottom line is it's not even the horsepower, because like last weekend, our trap speed, Corey's trap speed, Jake's trap speed, James Rispoli's trap speed, all were within a mile or two of each other, which is great, But it's not that. It's the torque. It's coming off the corner. And until they make it equal, it's never... And they don't need to make it equal. You don't need to be like, well, everyone has to have the same horsepower. We don't want that. We want to be able to push our bike. You want to push as a rider. But you can't... I think they've done a better job of balancing the super sport class with, the V2, big V2, or the ZX6, or the Gixxer 750, or the R6.
Hooligans is a whole different animal, right? So
I agree, but it's still a MotoAmerica class, and it still has rules that apparently change from round to round. I mean,
that's with the rules. I don't know if it is a full-on MotoAmerica class. I should know that, but I know that.
Pretty sure.
I know what I don't know is I don't know what the how much of it's Roland say and how much of it is MotoAmerica say when it comes to these rules. I am very surprised this year, and in a good way, that they've been willing to make changes and they're implementing changes faster than they have previously. So I think that's good. And
but who makes the decisions? Like when Dunlop said you get one 180 tire for everybody this year in Hooligans. So we're like, okay, all 180s. So that actually gave us a little advantage because the Harleys can't run their the bigger tire, which makes a big fucking difference, especially when you got a heavy bike, you got more power. But then suddenly they were allowed to run it. So who makes that decision? It surely wasn't Dunlop, because they want to keep things simple. So it was either Roland or MotoAmerica that caved to Harley's demand. Like, hey, we need this tire. Well, cool. Our Triumph needs nitrous. So, do we get that?
Since we're talking about Harley and their title sponsor of the series, that's the one thing of this whole deal that's driven me nuts for years is the fact that you have a series that's sponsored by a manufacturer.
An entrant.
And I mean, they
shouldn't be.
When it was Indian, Roland in 2022, had his own team running in his own series, and they won their own championship with Indian. So how is that not a conflict of interest? I mean, I know Indian, they didn't win a title. It took them years to win a title. They never won one in the flat track deal. So they went road racing and they got their couple championships. So. But still, it's like, as long as you're going to have a manufacturer sponsoring the class, I think there's always going to be this problem that, you have bikes that are just too
drastically different.
Too different. And then, I don't know, I just feel like you're always going to have people guessing, is this the right thing or not? And, I mean...
Yeah, it's just tough. And like I said, it's hard, especially as a privateer, when rules come out so last minute. We're not a factory team. I mean, my shop, we're putting stuff together last minute. We're trying to, make products and make, prototype parts while still running a regular shop, and you're still trying to hold down a regular job and do stuff. Whereas, and it's nothing against Corey and Jake and all those guys. I mean, they're paid riders, but they have a full factory that can literally just CNC make parts, and, and that's all they do. They don't have to worry about regular customer parts. They don't have to worry about their other job or any of that stuff. So it's like, I liked when Super Hooligans had a huge range of, young upcoming teenagers to guys in their 50s plus, and then we had KTMs and Yamahas, and it just seemed a lot closer. And then this year at Daytona, we show up, you're riding just as well as those guys, and yet we show up with 20 more horsepower almost, and 2,000 plus more RPM to work with, and just got waxed by the same bike, apparently. The same bike, but it wasn't. That's the problem. They're allowed to do a lot more now.
Yeah, I mean, again, I like that the class is growing. We got more competitors. We have a lot of manufacturers in it, and if you take the Harley out of it, I think the class looks pretty friggin' sweet as far as the diversity goes.
Well, the Yamaha and the Triumph, in my opinion, are fucking
they're the two best.
Right there with each other.
But like Ducati has that new V2 Street Fighter, which in time, as parts and stuff become available for it,
we just
that
started
could be
that
a contender
one,
too.
Should.
And obviously we'd want to see the Harley in there, but in what state, I don't know. Maybe Harley just needs to develop a bike that meets the 128 horsepower rules. And then
or they go back to not allowing the ram air intake
this.
Duct and the airbox mods and all that stuff. Choke it back down.
Yeah. I mean, after this year, though, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't come out with a bike that really meets the rules, that is a more sporty bike, that makes, the kind of power that the class was meant for. And they, make a bike that's fully legal, so then guys like us
like a Pan American 950 or something.
Yeah, make a real bike that meets all the rules, and you don't need an exemption to run the bike.
I mean, when we brought up in the past, just jokingly even, like, oh, we'll just run a KTM 1290 Super Duke. Couldn't, because the horsepower is over the limit.
Right.
But then here comes Harley, like, well, hey, ours is over the limit. Oh, you're fine. Well, what the fuck? Okay, then let the Triumph 1200 RS in. Let the KTM 1290 Super Duke in. Like, let the other manufacturers run their 1200 plus cc bikes. I mean, whatever, But racing's never going to be fair. You don't want it to be fair, but it would just be nice to be, some things a little more stable too, with like the tires. Oh, now they're running the 200. Oh, now they're running the airbox.
This brings up a good segue into, manufacturers. Like if you're a motorcycle manufacturer, other than Harley, looking at this series, why would you really want to get into it? Because from the outside looking in, it just looks like a huge marketing ploy for, it was India, now it's Harley. I mean, I've personally talked to multiple motorcycle manufacturers, and I'm not going to drop names, but if you know me, you probably know who they are. And a lot of them look at this and they want nothing to do with it, because they know
they don't have a chance.
They know that they don't have a chance. Yeah. They know it's an uphill battle. They know that it's, they know. So
I mean, it'd be like Supercross if the 250 class all of a sudden gas was allowed to run their 350 with no other changes really.
Oh, right.
Well, wait. What Honda would be like? Well, why are we running 250? You know what I mean? So that's why it's.
But it's a cool class. Like obviously, like there's so many things. Like again, I don't want this video to come off the wrong way, because I like Roland a lot. I mean, if you saw
Roland's a good dude.
If you saw me last weekend, I'm wearing an RSD helmet, and Roland was super stoked on that.
You can't not like Roland. He's just.
But yeah, you have to. It's a point. It's something. We're talking about stuff that no one talks about, except privately at the track, like all the other racers in the paddocks, but they don't want to speak up and talk about it. But so this is the stuff that no one's talking about, but they should. And yeah, seriously, I mean, if you're a manufacturer, I'm sure Yamaha is probably feeling the same way right now.
Sure.
Like, why would we support this if we don't really have a
good
good
shot at this? Suzuki, just they got that GSX-8. It's an 800 twin. But maybe they could build that into one if it was a more competitive class, but it can't compete with that.
No.
And it's like, I think Roland really has great ideas with this, and I just think we've gotten off the path, in my opinion, of what Roland really envisioned for the class, which is a bunch of privateers and people battling on cool different bikes.
I mean, honestly,
like a hooligan class, like the hooligans.
The hooligan thing is. Like, the name almost doesn't really fit what it is anymore, because this series started out as, I mean, before it is even a series, it was just a bunch of like working class guys riding their street bikes to Costa Mesa Speedway in Southern California, doing flat track night at Costa Mesa Speedway, and then it evolved from these inappropriate street bikes like Harley Softails to like Harley Sportsters with 19-inch wheels and flat track tires, and then it evolved into full on real flat track bikes made out of these street bikes, and I remember like when I started doing this, there was all this controversy whether pros should be allowed or not. And I remember like showing up to that first race in 2017 at Salem Speedway, the one motorcycle show, first round of the 2017 Hooligan Championship. And I had to take off the license plate off the bike and the kickstand because that was one of the few rules. In the pits. Yeah. Like that's where this series came from. And now you got semi-trucks, full factory teams, paid racers. I mean, I was the guy disrupting all this back then, and people thought we were the big factory bad guys.
The threat, And
now it's like the roles are reversed. It's like I'm like the guy that used to work and didn't want the pros coming in, and then now we got all these factory teams, and I'm the guy bitching about all these guys.
Well, and a lot of this with the video I think is good because honestly, like we have over 100,000 followers on our social media, and it's like the number one question I get asked, well, maybe two questions with Super Hooligans is like, how come you can't make the Triumph fast as the Ducati or as fast as the Harleys? And we respond, 765 versus 1250, and then every single one of them are like, oh, I didn't know the Harley was that big. Because people don't know, if you're not a Harley guy, you don't know that it's a 1250. So a lot of people don't know that. And then the second, the second thing is like they don't understand the rules.
No.
And it's like, wait a minute, I thought it had to be this or had to be that.
Yeah,
so we have to kind of explain it sometimes. So I think
all the time.
I think, in my opinion, I think Roland and those guys should do a little bit more behind the scenes type videos because they do great social media and they do great videos. I think his name's Nate, maybe, that does the videos. He does, the guy in the pits. He does great stuff. Like, maybe do some more stuff to explain to fans, Roland, because I'm telling you, after the Ridge, after Daytona, we get just inundated with DMs. Like, hey, great job, you guys. It sucks that your bike's not as fast. I'm like, bro, Peter Hickman might have the only faster Triumph 765 that we know of. It's like it's not that. It's they don't because people don't know it's a 1250.
No, and then everyone always comments, why don't you race? When I was on the KTM, they're like, why don't you race a 1290 Super Duke? Why are you on the 890? And now it's like, why
over the horsepower limit.
Why aren't you on the 1200? Speed triple
RS. That'd be a great bike.
Yeah, but I mean, my gripe with this whole with the series has just always been that. I feel like in the broadcast they don't talk about the rules. They don't talk about the different types of bikes. It's just before it was just Indian. Yeah. Now it's Harley, and then they obviously don't mention the fact that hey, these Harleys make more horsepower than what's allowed in the class.
Or they don't mention also people. I've had people that came to the Ridge last weekend in the pits to us, and they're like, I had no idea Harley guys have two semis with a crew of 10 people, and you guys don't. I'm like, no, it's me and his dad. That's it. That's the fucking crew. That's the team. And then Adon, your teammate, has his friend Reese, who's a motocross racer, helping him, and I'm still trying to oversee that stuff too. And then AJ, our guy on the Ducati, is literally John, one of my techs, and then his dad helping out and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what Hooligans is. If you get outside the factory Harley, 6 guys maybe, everyone else is like that. Like the Yamahas is Chuck Giaccetto, which he hasn't gone to some of the rounds because he's busy with his business, but it's his team, and it's like a crew chief and a helper. That's it.
Yep.
But you go to the factory Harley, God bless him, I love it. I think it looks fantastic, but you're not going to get the other manufacturers in if they're not allowed to run the same. Like the MotoAmerica's fought very hard to get Superbike a lot closer to where Yamaha, Honda, BMW are a lot closer. And now you see guys like Titler's that come out with the BMW out there, and they're competitive. You see, Attack's running the Yamaha, and then you see Mark Young going to Honda, going, "Hey, we can be competitive with the new Honda with the rules," and they are. And it's like, but Super Hooligans is pushing people away, pushing manufacturers away by legitimately making it a Harley Pan America Cup.
I mean, to kind of like play devil's advocate, I would say that, obviously the Arches in the series, and I think they've been bending over backwards to accommodate them. So obviously there's the star factor there because Keanu's behind it. Yeah. But like,
it's a cool bike.
Again,
it is, and they got it's a cool bike. No one can afford one ever.
They are doing things to try to be more inclusive, but still they need to do something because you got other manufacturers out there that honestly I think have a lot of interest in the class. I mean, the naked bikes are I want to say the fastest, biggest, most growing segment in the motorcycle category. I mean, you look around, you see naked bikes everywhere. I go to the track days these days.
That's one of our biggest
markets. Half of them or more now are naked bikes.
Our market's really grown with the naked bike.
You got the perfect thing to promote your naked bike with Super Hooligan Racing.
I mean, here's a perfect example. That's my daily. I ride an R9T. Nate Kern, and I'm not speaking for you, Nate, but hopefully it's okay. Nate runs an R9T that a couple years ago was competitive, and because he's a fast rider, and he was in the top 5 and stuff. He can't even get close now, and he wants to run the newer I think it's the R1250 RT or RS. Sorry, Nate, if I'm messing up. But they're not allowing it because of the rules.
Yep.
And it's like, what the fuck? You allowed Harley to go above and beyond the rules. Why don't you let Nate do it so BMW could have a competitive bike? Because what they don't understand is like, okay, let's say BMW claim 140 horse on that bike. Well, it's 15 horsepower the limit. It's shaft drive. The shaft takes 15 horsepower away. So like what you're saying is, if you allowed BMW and Nate to have a competitive bike, maybe he'd do a little better, and then maybe BMW's like, hey, let's start putting some money into this series and stuff. Triumph, if you allowed, I don't know which bike you'd allow, the 1200 RS, whatever it is. I like you said, I just think they need to allow a way for other manufacturers to get excited about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I just think the BMW is a perfect example. It's a little over the horsepower limit, the new one, but not a lot, and it's shaft drive. It would help Nate be a little more competitive.
I mean, I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but I tried connecting, MV with MotoAmerica to homologate the Bretale 800, and that went nowhere. And then just recently, a few months ago, I tried inquiring about getting a Kawasaki Z900 homologated because I knew someone at Kawasaki that worked at Cowie that would like to see that in the class, and I had a dealership that's behind me that would love to see that bike in the class. So, I emailed about it, asking, hey, what do I got to do to make a proposal?
Cool bike.
No email back.
Nope.
I mean, I haven't followed up. I sent one email, but I mean, I sent it.
It's a cool bike, and then you're like, all of a sudden, now you have a Kawasaki. Like, we brought out the very first 2025 Ducati V2. Like you said, it's not developed yet. We literally have one of the very first in the country. John worked 4,000 hours a night to get that thing done. But it was all weekend. The pits were full of people wanting pictures of it. Even competitors came over and were like, dude, this is cool. This is rad. So it's like, you want more manufacturers. You want more bikes in the class. You want to grow the class, not grow the title sponsor only, but...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. As long as you have a manufacturer sponsoring the series, no matter how hard you try to accommodate everyone else in the class, it's never going to be a fully clean look. You're always going to kind of look like you're almost being bribed to make that brand more competitive than the others. And I know the Harley guys, again, I have nothing against the Harley guys.
No, they're good guys.
I know they don't want to be perceived that way either.
No, like Jake Lewis, when he wins, he wants to win. Like, I love his podium speech when he was talking about the boss had to show him, like, he's not just talking to us. He's talking to, James. He's talking to Court, everyone else to prove that he's the main guy. It's not just the bike. But he wants to win because he won. He doesn't want to win because the bike's better or whatever. Like, everyone's bike's a little better, different tracks, whatever. But I agree with you. I think a rider wants to win and prove it's him, not just the equipment. It's a team thing. But
I mean, I'm confident. I mean, I've raced with Jake in other classes, and he's pretty much whooped my ass in all the other classes. I've had my moments at the Ridge where I've battled with Jake in Super Sport on the MV. I've battled with Jake in Stock 1000 on my ZX10.
He rode the wheels off that thing.
I've always been a guy battling at the front, the Ridge, so I know how I'm going to stand up against guys like Jake. So I'm not saying Jake beat me because of the bike, not at all.
No.
But like, I don't think that I should be I don't know exactly what the gap was at Daytona, but like I should be getting beat by 20 plus seconds.
Well,
that's where it's 100% the bike.
Because the trap speeds were massive on the Harley compared to everyone else. Like I said, the Yamahas, I think one session I remember were 10 mile an hour difference between the two teammates with the same bikes, because it was what's-his-face was with the Harleys in the draft. So if you stayed with them, you rode good. But if you lost that draft, you're just dead in the water, Whereas the Harleys had the power and torque to pull it, especially off the banking, onto the banking,
Yep. I'm trying to, obviously the Hooligan class, it's evolved a lot, and you still have a really wide spectrum of riders. So at the top, you got the factory Harley teams. And then, behind the Harley teams, you got us and a couple other teams that are, they have some level of support from a manufacturer like Triumph or Yamaha possibly, or KTM, whoever. And then you got the list goes on and on and on down, right? Then you just got the guys that are literally out there on whatever they can scrape together that's legal, just having fun.
Because they're having a great time.
Because it's a fairly easy class to qualify for.
And it's a fun class after hours. Saturday, or I think it was Saturday night, everyone hanging out in Roland's pits, you know. That's what the class should be, and that's what it originally was like a bunch of people hanging out, drinking beers, bullshitting, whereas you probably don't get that in the factory team, and the hooligan riders have always been more approachable, because you guys are usually in the pits, sometimes working on the bikes, but so that's the appeal of the class, is a guy can ride to the track on his 765 or his Pan American or his KTM and be like, dude, guys are on the track with these things. That's fucking cool. Like when I did the track day on my R9T, people were looking at me like, what the fuck? But it was fun, it's different, so it's like you said, we just need to get, you want to bring people into the class. You don't want to run them out because they can't compete even close,
Yeah.
Like nobody wants to get lapped in a 6-lap race, I mean, that's if they qualify, obviously, if they qualify, but it's.
But yeah, I don't know. I think the big question is going forward is like, how does it continue to evolve, and like, what's.
Yeah, does next year everyone show up on Pan Americas?
How are they gonna entice people like us to keep doing it? Like, because honestly.
I mean, not me personally, but my shop. I mean, how many guys have we built hooligan bikes to show up, and like KTM, 890s and the Triumph now and other bikes, and it's like I told Roland, I'm trying to bring people and feed the series, like we do a lot with the Twins Cups and everything else, and it's like Ulrich has been very good at that over the years. Ulrich wants to build the series up because, like he says, that's our series. We got to help it build it up, and it's like, but you got to build it up. You can't just build one team up because they're the ones paying the bill. It's you got to find a way to like get to the KTM guys and go, what do you guys need? Get to KTM manufacturer. Hey KTM, what would it take to have you excited about this class? Hey Triumph, what do you need? Hey Honda, you got this bike. Why wouldn't you run this? Yeah. Well, because we don't have. Hey BMW, Nate's been competitive before, but maybe now the bikes have progressed. What do you need? Let us run the new R1250. Okay, you know what I mean, and try it. And if Nate shows up on the new R9T, I'm just using his example, Nate, sorry. If Nate shows up and all of a sudden he's fucking dominating, like he's 10 miles an hour faster, which we know is not happening with the bike, but if it's 5-10 miles an hour faster, then you fucking adjust it like they've been doing. That's what Supersport does. Ducati wanted the V2. Okay, we're gonna have to dial it back. MV wanted the 800. Okay, we gotta dial it back. That's what Hooligans needs to do.
It's a tough thing because obviously there's different skill sets. So like,
sure,
you wouldn't want to try to make one bike like way more competitive if you know that the rider really isn't like a top level guy.
No, of course.
I'm not saying Nate's not a top level guy.
I know what you're saying.
But I'm just saying like let's say I don't even know if I would make an example, but like it's just a tough thing to.
Well, use your teammate. Don's our buddy and friend, and he knows this is his first year. He's a rookie, and it's a learning experience. And I think he got 13th the second race this last weekend, which is fucking fantastic. And he was over the moon. But if he shows up at Laguna and all of a sudden he's top 3, either I've done something to the engine or something, because he's not going to improve talent-wise 10 positions all of a sudden. You know what I mean? So it's like you said, you don't want to overly build one brand or bike or whatever, but you need to make it approachable to where everyone kind of has a chance.
Yeah. I know they've, Super Hooligans has made mistakes in the past. I mean, for example, when Phil Moore and I won in 2021 on our KTMs, they made the weight rule, 20 more extra pounds.
Break my table.
And there was no real good reason for that. I mean, you look back at the race, Indian didn't have bikes that were fully developed. They didn't have, guys of our caliber or better riding the bikes. Mm-hmm. So they prematurely made a weight rule to slow the KTMs down and help the Indian without actually having any real comparison or real data, or real people riding their bikes to see how good they would do. And then obviously once they put O'Hara and McWilliams on them and started developing them, it was a major,
absolutely.
They were completely dialed, and it was a major, I mean, I truly think I could have won that championship in 2022 if it weren't for that weight rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I heard a lot. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm curious to see kind of going forward how it goes. I want to keep doing this class, but I mean, we spent so much money. Like, I don't think I'll ever just be done racing it, but I don't know if I'm going to keep...
Just short of an OnlyFans page.
I don't know if I want to keep investing in doing this year after year. If the best we can do is where we are right now.
Or if you can show that you're competitive with your lap time on your own, but then when you get into a group, you can't get a start because of the torque. Again, they're 5 bike lengths ahead of you. And then you can't run your lines because of a clear power advantage. I think it's torque more than horsepower, but it's clearly a big advantage for them, and I think you're going to see that at Laguna. I really do.
Yeah.
I think honestly, you're going to see you running into the back of them on the last corner, and I think by the bridge, they're going to have probably 5 to 10 bike lengths on us. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just saying that corner of almost any track in the country is all about getting out of it with torque. You can't carry your roll speed if you're running up into them.
Turn 5 and 6 up the hill.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah, I think
it's literally going to be an uphill battle.
it is going to be uphill battle. But yeah, the number one thing though is, again, I don't know how you're going to get other manufacturers to really step into this class with like a semi-truck type program and like...
Because look at Indian already pulled out. What if Harley pulls out next year? Then what does the class become?
Well, then maybe it actually would... Everyone would flock to it.
But my point is, if you're pandering to these guys because they're paying the class, I get that, whatever. But if Harley decides, like Indian, like, hey man, why are we spending millions of dollars to win a championship? We've already won it. Okay, fine, we're out. You think Corey and Jake and all them are going to show up and privateer built Harleys? Fuck no, because they're not going to be competitive. The bike won't be.
Those guys, they get paid to race. Like,
that's my point.
They're probably not going to just show up.
That's what I'm saying. They're just going to leave the class. Whereas guys like you are still going to be there every year. And that's what I'm saying is, like, Roland and them need to get out there and talk to guys. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but like 5th place in the championship down, that non-Harley guys, and be like, hey,
6th and down.
6th and down. Yeah, sorry. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, get out there and talk. You know what the Harley guys want. You know what Harley, the manufacturer, wants. Get out there and talk to everyone else. Yeah. And be like, hey, what do you think? What would be a good direction of the series? And then if you get 10 guys saying the same thing, then you're kind of like, maybe I should listen.
I mean, I tried for years to get KTM involved with a factory level of support, and obviously that didn't happen. And, again, like other manufacturers, I think, would like to do this. I mean, we saw Energica out there.
Yeah,
I think they didn't come back this year just because Stefano is hurt, and I think he's okay now. But yeah, I mean, other than Arch, it's like there's no other manufacturer really doing anything.
And I think next year, if everything stays the same, I don't think you have one KTM out there next year. Because the guys on KTM right now are like, I'm just running it this year because it's all I got.
Yeah,
I can't afford to build a new bike.
The Triumph is the new KTM. Because the Triumph is, affordable. It's really competitive for what it is.
Yeah, you can buy one used for $6,000 and then build it for less than.
It's arguably the next best bike in the class.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Yamaha.
That and the Yamaha probably, yeah.
But I think the Triumph's probably a little easier to set up.
People don't realize it's basically a 675. I mean, they've upgraded stuff like that, but a lot of stuff's the same, so it's the same proven recipe. But I think the Yamaha's coming on. I think the Yamaha. I think Chuck and those guys have done a fantastic job with that bike. It looks cool. Handlebars are funky. I don't know what they're doing with the handlebars, Chuck. Sorry about that, but handlebars are fucking weird. But that could be a rider thing. But it's just the rules and the one reason. One day it's this, one day it's that. It's.
But it's funny you mentioned that though, because when we did show up to Daytona this year, Teague and Tech was like, "Hey, you got to take off the bodywork pieces around the radiator."
Around the radiator, because they're aerodynamic.
It's the stock bodywork.
It actually holds the radiator shroud and the overflow tank, and yet they were trying to make. I think it was Coles was the big one that they were like. Even the frame sliders, because his frame sliders were considered the aerodynamic, and it's like, are you fucking kidding? You've got $1 million program, and you got a kid and his dad from.
Well, they were going to make they were going to make everybody who wasn't on a Harley, because the Harley was the only one that didn't have those. I mean, you look at the Yamaha MT-09, you look at the Ducatis, you look at the KTMs, you look at the Triumphs. They all have this OEM bodywork that's part of the radiator setup.
That's how naked bikes a lot of them are.
Yeah, but there was nothing in the rules about that, and he's like, well, there's nothing in the rules that say you can have it, and that's I literally looked up in the rule book and I made a stink about it in tech.
And then they decided,
and then they're like, all right, well, but what set me off was he said, well, the Harleys don't have it. And
it's like, well, come stock with it.
There you go. This is the Harley show again.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it's just
anyway.
It wasn't an add-on piece. It was literally part of it. Yes,
yeah, it's OEM.
But you had to throw a stink to get it through, and that was shitty.
Well, that's the thing. If I didn't make the stink, nothing would have got done. No. And I don't know. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I'm one of the few people in the class that speaks up about this stuff. I'm always the one trying to push this into the right direction.
I think the other guys look up to you because you have been in it a long time. You are more recognized than them. Maybe they feel like they don't have a voice because they're 23rd or whatever. Who doesn't matter?
Yeah, I mean,
it's nice that they do come to you.
A lot of guys, again, they do this for fun, but even though they're doing it for fun, they still want to have the best shot at it as possible. So, I mean, everyone has a right to feel that.
Even if top 10, people would be stoked. And I'm the last person in the world that wants participation fucking trophies or the last person that wants everyone to finish the same. I just believe that everyone should start out the same, and the best rider, team, bike, they win.
Yep.
But you can't have, a track and field 100-yard dash and Harleys are out. Harley guys, you only have to run 90 yards. Wait, what the fuck? I mean, it's literally like that's what it is, and it's like you just need to make it. If your rule is 125 horsepower, and the Pan America comes stock with 130 or 100, even 126 or whatever, one horse over, it's not legal.
Yeah.
It's fucking not legal. But Harley goes, hey, we have a checkbook.
Well, yeah.
Welcome.
That's what. How exactly did they get that in the class? What did it cost? What did they have to do?
Because as soon as we asked the 1290, they said no. It's over.
Why isn't this something that is public knowledge so that any manufacturer can request, hey, let's get this bike in?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a manufacturer, and when I've talked with Teague, he's like, the manufacturer has to contact the series. I get that, but when it comes to certain stuff, like I wish the riders had, some sort of say in it too.
Well, and that's where, like you said, like I get Teague's hands are tied sometimes because it's not his job. I get that, and Teague, I love you. I love giving you shit though, but that's where, in my opinion, it's still got Roland's name on it. Like Roland. Reach out to KTM, reach out to Honda, Triumph, Kawasaki, all these guys and go, hey, what would it take to get there? And Kawasaki maybe says, we have a Z900 naked bike that's selling like crazy because it really is a great bike. We do so many of those things.
It fits into the class for all the rules except it's a 4-cylinder.
That's the only rule.
So that's the only thing keeping it. They don't allow 4-cylinders.
But we didn't have 3 cylinders a couple years ago in there, and now they do. So it's like, if you're going to, like, that's what I'm saying is, let's say, okay, you know what, Cowie, we're going to give you guys a try. And if it comes out and it's too fast, we're going to add, 4-cylinder, but you got to run 440 weight. I don't know what the weight thing's going to be, but you got to run 440 weight. Okay, something. Or okay, we're going to allow 4 cylinders in, but you have to leave the cylinder head stock. I mean, whatever. Like right now, we have to run stock piston, stock, rods, stock, transmit, all this stuff. So it's like, okay, maybe they have a little bit more rules, but it's like, Roland, reach out and get them to fucking come into the series. Hey, BMW, what would it take to get Nate more competitive? Just because he's the rider on the BMW right now. Hey, I think if you let us run the 1250, makes more torque, it's only a couple horsepower more. Cool, let's give it a try,
Yeah.
That's my point. That's my point, is like,
for sure,
trying to, because I'm like you, I want to see the class grow. I don't want a super Pan America Cup. I just don't want that.
It really looks like
it looks like Harley again.
It looks like a Harley series up at the front, but yeah, I mean for all this stuff to happen, the manufacturers are the ones supposed to be contacting the series to get things done. But again, what incentive do these manufacturers have when it looks like a Harley marketing show? And again, anytime you have a series sponsored by a manufacturer, it's just, I don't see how it can't be a conflict of interest.
I just know from the people that I know, like at Kawasaki and stuff over the years, it would look fucking rad to have, because it looks like the old 70s race bikes, like the Eddie Lawson race stuff. That's why the Z900 has been so popular. I just think it'd be rad for guys to put some cartridges, put some shocks on the back, put an exhaust, tune it, get the flat bars, get the number plates, And I think that Cowie would love that because that's what they're going after, is that retro racer naked look of the 70s. That's why it's so popular, So it's like, get them to come into the class. They don't have a 3-cylinder. They don't have a twin that's competitive. So let them run a 4-cylinder. I mean, you have Super Sport is one of the most restricted classes in MotoAmerica, and yet you have a V-twin. You have an inline 3-cylinder. You have an inline 4-cylinder. So it's like, why can't Hooligans have that? That's my point. And then, maybe Honda's like, hey, we want to run the, I don't know what bike they would have.
I think they have a Hornet
900
like
they've had for years. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, we're gonna get rid of the stupid 4-cylinder rule, just like we got rid of the 3-cylinder rule, and we're not pretty much running air cooled anymore because everyone's liquid cooled. But it's like, just try shit, because like you said, if Harley disappears, there goes 6 riders. I don't think any of those 6 guys are going to go out and do their own Super Hooligans program. They're not. I just don't think. Nothing against them. I just think they'll look for other opportunities. They're not going to be like you. I don't think Jake Lewis wants to put, $50,000 a year of his own money into a program to go out there, Hooligans. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to speak for Jake. I'm just using Jake as an example.
Yep.
But it's like, okay, so then let's get some other people out there, that like, fuck, that'd be cool to run a Z900. And then, like you said, if you keep it to where, okay, we allow 4 cylinders, but you can't do engine work. If I'm a privateer and it's just me and my dad or whatever it is, that makes my life a lot easier. You don't have to pay a shop like me to do the cylinder head or do this and that. And it's a little bit more approachable being a Kawasaki, because how many more dealers are there, or how much easier to get parts for a Kawasaki? We're just using Kawasaki's example, but
yeah. But anyway, I kind of wrap this up. Like, I've been wanting to kind of, because I've been into this so long in the Hooligans class, and I've seen everything that there's been to see with the class and how it's evolved. Like, I've always wanted to kind of share something about that, and like with this article, kind of, it's just a brief summary of what it's been. But what kind of sparked it was an article that came out a few days prior to us recording this about the Harleys having to run the weight, and that article failed to mention the fact that they're allowed to run more horsepower, and that guys like me have been running
a lot more CC.
Been running this stuff for years. Obviously, we don't have to run all this now. They've continued.
We still have to add weight, though.
We still have weight on the bike.
Weight to the bike.
We still had some lead weight on the bike this year, still do, but it's come down. It's going in the right direction. But again, we're talking about this, and we're trying to bring this up because I just feel like it's an injustice to a lot of racers, the majority of the racers in the class, like myself, that this stuff isn't talked about. It's not in press releases. It's not talked about in the broadcast.
It's not explained to the fans.
It's not explained to the fans. Yeah. And so, yeah, we're just here to talk about it and put it out there.
Yeah, because even in the broadcast, if you watch the videos, they don't say the Harley 1250 or the Pan American. They say the Triumph 765, and then they'll say the Harley Pan America. They don't say 1250, which, whatever, that's not what it's called, but that's legitimately what it is. But, like, I think, like, wrapping it up is, like, we're not trying to bitch about this bike being too much. It's like, we want to see the class grow. Like, I want to see the class grow.
I mean,
we want more manufacturers.
We've been doing it every year. Yeah. If we weren't fans of the series,
absolutely,
we wouldn't be here talking about this.
Yep.
And I hope that this doesn't rub people the wrong way. I mean,
I hope people leave comments. Honestly, on the video.
Obviously, some people feel the way they feel about you.
Oh, everyone hates me. I don't care. I don't give a shit. I mean, everyone.
I've always been more like timid to talk about stuff because I'm not out trying to ruffle feathers, but
I don't ruffle feathers on purpose. It just does that automatically.
You're just naturally,
But
that way.
No, but I think people will see that we are trying to be passionate about this, and we want we love Roland. We want to see Roland's class grow and do more. I'll butt heads with Teague, the tech guy, but at the end of the day, Teague and I'll have a beer and talk shit and have a good time. But it's just what frustrates me is when you have hard rules, like, hey, Roland, can we run the 1290 Super Duke? Nope, over the horsepower limit. Nah, fuck, okay, we get it. But then the next year, Harley, you're over the weight rule, the horsepower. You're allowed. It's okay.
I briefly have spoke with Roland, like at Daytona this year. I told him straight up, I'm like, hey man, I really feel like I'm the thorn in your side sometimes and all this stuff. Like, I don't know, it's tough because I feel like a friendship.
Well, we're bitching to try to improve the class,
but also at times I feel like they're working against us. Like at times I feel like they're working with us, and at times they're working against us. So it's a tough battle, right? It's tough to manage. Like, I understand it's a business. It's you know, a series. It's all these different things, and you can't please everybody.
No, but at the end of the day, you want to put on a good show.
Yeah.
And the fans want to see a Yamaha, BMW, a KTM, a Harley, a Triumph. Like, fuck, that's rad. That's what's rad about Super Sport, is you have Ducati, Honda.
Superbike this last weekend in one of the sessions, I think he had 5 manufacturers in the top 5. 5 different manufacturers.
Nobody wants the same with MotoGP. No. What's the biggest complaint with MotoGP? It's a Ducati series.
Yeah, you know? I don't watch MotoGP.
But that's my point. My point is, how excited are we when a Honda's in the top 5? It has not happened recently, but I'm just saying, you're like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. So we need Super Hooligans to get the other fans involved. You know, the other. Some people hate Harley, and so they root for the Triumphs, even though they don't know you or don't know me, or they like BMW. Like, I'm a Honda guy, but I don't root for Honda in Super Sport because it's not competitive. But I'm saying is, like, we want the class to grow. We want more people. I want to see 40 bike grids. I want to see you on a Triumph. You know, the other guys on the Yamahas, the guys on the Harleys. I want to see all that shit. And in my opinion, I think Jake and James, they want more bikes in there battling with them. They don't want to just battle, Jake, James.
The same 6 guys.
Yeah. Corey, all those guys. It's like, you want, and that's one thing I love about the class is, like, we talk so much shit about, to each other. Like, I'll flick Jake's shit, but he knows I'm joking. Corey West and I have never got along. We butt heads. But you know what? That's fucking racing. Not everyone's going to get along. At the end of the day, I don't hate Corey. I don't even hardly know the guy. But it's like, yeah, we butt heads. It's okay. You need a little bit of that with racing, and it's the same with manufacturers. You want Harley and Indian. That was what made it good racing, is they had 2 big egos going against each other, and it made the series fucking better. You had Indian guys that cannot stand a Harley. They'll never own a Harley. And then you have Harley guys that will never own an Indian. So we want that with all the other brands too, but you have to reach out to those brands and go, what do we need to do to get you in? And then maybe Kawasaki goes, you know what, we have a Z900. We'd like to run that.
Yep.
And then they need to figure out the rules. Okay, we're going to allow it, but we're going to say this. And Teague and all these guys could reach out to us and be like, Eric, what's that bike make for power? And then let's go from there. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, anyone watching this, if you have thoughts, comment, let us know what you think. If you think we're crazy, let us know.
Corey West, you can comment I'm an asshole. I know that's coming. I'm fine with it. I don't care.
But anyway.
I'm curious what people think. I want to see what the fans
I think
comment, like, hey, this is what we'd like to see.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of people that completely agree, and I think there's going to be people that have no idea what's going on. Maybe they don't care, and maybe they'll find this interesting. So if you've watched this whole video through and through, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking forward to these next couple races to finish out the year. And I hope that it goes well for us, and
we'll see in 6 days time.
Yeah, and I want to keep doing this, and I want to see it evolve, in the better for everybody. And we'll just see what evolves. So
should be good.
Thank you guys. One last thing, if there's something that we didn't talk about in the video that you would like to have us talk about, or you have questions you want answered, drop a comment, and maybe we'll do a follow-up video to this one and we'll cover that stuff.